She said my name like it was an interruption, quiet, careful, almost apologetic. But it still made something in me stop. I shouldn't have been there that late. The room was dim, a lamp still on beside the half-empty glass of wine she'd forgotten to finish. I was supposed to fix the old shelf in her study. That was all. Just a favor. Just something small. But she was standing there barefoot, sleeves rolled up, hair a little undone, like the day had taken something out of her and she hadn't decided whether to let it show. "Don't overthink this," she said. "It's just a shelf." It wasn't. Her name, Lena, felt heavier every time I said it. She wasn't my boss, not really. Just someone I'd met through a favor that kept turning into another. Someone who thanked me with coffee and long pauses. Someone whose eyes always seemed to be holding back a story. She leaned against the doorframe, watching me work. I could feel it without looking. That kind of attention that doesn't rush you, but still pins you in place. "Your hands don't shake," she said, half smiling. "They do," I said. "You just look away before it happens." She laughed, but it came out softer than she meant it to. Then she crossed the room and brushed sawdust off the sleeve of my shirt, a small, almost motherly gesture that didn't feel motherly at all. Her fingers stayed there for a second too long. Long enough for me to forget what I was fixing. Long enough for her to realize it, pull back, and reach for her glass instead. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was worse, the kind that waits for someone to say what they shouldn't. "Lena," I started, but didn't finish. She shook her head. "You shouldn't complicate things." Her tone was calm, but the kind of calm people use to cover the edge of something fragile. She turned toward the window, and for a moment her reflection in the glass looked younger, like she'd borrowed a version of herself she didn't believe in anymore. "I wasn't trying to," I said. "I know," she murmured. "That's what makes it worse." She took a sip of wine, then set the glass down too hard. The sound startled both of us. She sighed, tried to smile it away, then said quietly, "You should probably go before I start talking too much." But she didn't move. Neither did I. There was that strange gravity again, the kind that doesn't ask permission. The distance between us felt intentional, but only because both of us were pretending it was. Her perfume lingered in the air, something subtle, something clean that made the whole room feel closer than it was. I turned to leave, but she stepped forward at the same time. Our hands brushed, not a full touch, just the kind of accidental contact that feels designed by something neither of us would name. She didn't pull back right away. I didn't either. "Sorry," I whispered. "For what?" she asked, but the words came out unsteady. The clock on her wall ticked loudly for the first time all night. Then, from the hallway, another voice, lighter, younger, called her name. Lena's eyes flicked toward the door, then back to me. "Go," she said under her breath, almost pleading. I hesitated. The door handle turned. And before it opened, she whispered, so low I almost missed it, "You already did." I didn't see her for a week after that night. Every time my phone buzzed, I half hoped it was her, half dreaded it. But it was always someone else, my brother, my boss, a reminder to pay rent. Real things. Simple things. Lena wasn't simple. When she finally texted, the shelf's leaning again. "If you're free." I stared at the screen too long before replying, "Sure." It wasn't about the shelf. We both knew that. Her house looked the same, but she didn't. Something quieter about her, like she'd been arguing with herself for days and lost. She greeted me with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "You didn't have to come," she said. "You texted," I said. "That's not the same thing." She turned away before I could answer, leaving that faint trace of her perfume again, cedar, something faintly citrus. It had started to feel like a place. I followed her into the study. The shelf was fine. Not perfect, but fine. What she really wanted, I think, was company that didn't ask for anything she couldn't give. Her husband had left 2 years ago. I knew that much. A short, clean exit, the kind people envy until they realize how silence echoes when there's no one left to argue with. She'd told me once, over coffee, that she used to fill the house with guests just to make it feel alive. Lately, she said, she'd stopped trying. I wanted to ask if I made it easier or harder. I didn't. While I checked the shelf, she sat on the edge of the desk, close enough that her knee brushed my shoulder. I pretended not to notice, but every muscle in my arm did. "You're quiet today," she said. "I'm trying not to say the wrong thing." That's usually when people say the right one. I looked up. She was watching me again, that steady, too honest look that made it impossible to pretend this was normal. "Do people talk?" I asked. "About, you and me?" Her lips tightened. "People always talk. They get bored if they don't. So that's why you said not to complicate things." She tilted her head. "I said it because I know how it ends." "How does it end?" "With someone pretending they don't care." She stood, brushed imaginary dust off her skirt, and took a step closer. The air between us thickened, not romantic, not yet, just charged, like something about to spark. I felt her breath near my ear as she reached past me for a book. It wasn't an accident. Her fingers grazed the back of my neck. Just once. It wasn't a touch you could name. Too brief to be claimed, too intimate to be ignored. She pulled back first, eyes unreadable. "Thank you," she said softly. "For the shelf. For still showing up." Neither of us moved. The air felt full of something unspoken, suspended, and neither of us seemed brave enough to break it. Rain started halfway through the evening, soft at first, then sharp against the windows. I just finished adjusting the shelf again, pretending to care about angles and symmetry, pretending I didn't notice how quiet she'd gone. Lena stood behind me, arms crossed, watching the water slide down the glass. Her reflection looked trapped, like the world outside was moving faster than she could. "You should wait till it stops," she said finally. "The road floods." "I don't mind the rain." "I do," she murmured. "People see too much when it rains." I turned. "See what?" She didn't answer. Just looked at me like she wanted to. The air between us was full of tiny sounds, the hum of the heater, the drip from somewhere near the window, my own heartbeat. She stepped closer to hand me a towel, and her fingers brushed mine. Neither of us moved away. "Your hands are cold," she said. "They weren't," I replied before I could stop myself. Her breath caught. It wasn't loud, but it was enough. For a second, I thought she might actually reach for me. But then a sharp knock came from the hallway. "Lena." A woman's voice. Lena froze. Her friend, I'd seen her once before, the same one who had walked in that first night. "Here." Lena called back, too quickly. She stepped away, almost stumbling into the desk. "Just a second." She smoothed her hair, pressed her lips together, checked her reflection in the glass, a dozen small gestures that looked like armor. Then she whispered, "Don't say anything." I nodded. When her friend stepped into the room, I was already gathering tools. Lena's voice switched to something light, practiced. "He's just helping with that shelf again," she said. The woman smiled politely, but her eyes lingered a moment too long. "You're getting a lot of help from him lately." Lena's fingers tightened on the back of the chair. "He's good at fixing things." The silence after that was unbearable. Her friend left soon after, an excuse about the rain, a wave, the sound of the front door closing. Lena exhaled hard, her shoulders dropping. "She thinks," I started. "I know what she thinks," Lena cut in. "And she's not wrong to." The way she said it, quiet, resigned, made it sound like a confession she hadn't meant to make. "Lena," I said, stepping closer. "It's not, don't," she whispered. "Don't make it real." But when she turned toward me, our faces were too close. Her breath hit my skin, warm and uneven. My hand found her wrist before I could think, not to pull her in, just to keep her from leaving again. Neither of us spoke. If she moved an inch closer, it would happen. If I let go, it wouldn't. Her eyes flicked to my mouth, then back up, a fraction of a second, but enough to undo me. The thunder outside covered the silence that followed. She didn't kiss me. She didn't need to. When she finally pulled her wrist free, she stayed near enough for her voice to shake when she said, "You should go before the rain stops." But neither of us moved. I hadn't planned to see her again that soon. But that night, she called, not texted, her voice small through the line, asking if I could come by. "The lights are flickering again," she said. They weren't. I think we both knew. When I arrived, the house was dark except for the soft glow of a lamp in the living room. The storm had passed, but the air still smelled like rain, damp, electric. Lena was sitting on the couch, barefoot, wrapped in an oversized sweater that looked like it belonged to someone else. "You didn't have to come," she said as I stepped in. "You keep saying that," I said. "And I keep coming anyway." She almost smiled. Almost. I checked the fuse box, just for show. Everything was fine. When I came back, she was standing by the window, her reflection blurred by the leftover droplets on the glass. "I shouldn't have called," she said quietly. "It's not fair to you." "Then why did you?" She turned. Her eyes looked tired, but not from lack of sleep, from restraint. "Because you make the silence louder," she said. "And I hate how much I like that." Something broke between us then, not a wall, exactly, but the space we'd both been pretending was safety. I stepped closer. "You keep telling me not to complicate things," I said. "But it feels like you already have." Her laugh was small, almost bitter. "You think you know what this is?" "I don't," I said. "But I know it's not nothing." She looked at me for a long time. The kind of look that makes your chest hurt before you understand why. Then, without a word, she reached up, brushed a strand of hair from her face, but her hand trembled halfway, and I caught it before she could pull back. Her skin was warm. She didn't move. "Lena, don't say my name like that." "How, then?" "Like you're about to ruin me." Her voice cracked on the last word. We stood there, her hand still in mine, her breath close enough to taste. The room felt smaller, the air thicker, every sound magnified, the faint buzz of the lamp, the soft brush of her sweater against my arm, her pulse quick and uneven under my fingers. I could have stepped back. I didn't. "You shouldn't look at me like that," she whispered. "Then stop standing so close." She tried to say something, a protest, maybe, but it came out as a breath against my cheek. Her forehead leaned against mine, just barely. I felt the tremor of her exhale, the wordless surrender of someone fighting a losing battle with herself. Then, a sound from the hallway. A door creaked. A voice, faint but unmistakable, "Lena." We froze. Her lips were still inches from mine when she whispered, barely moving, "This can't happen." And I whispered back, without meaning to, "It already is." The next morning, she didn't answer my calls. Not one. By evening, I gave up pretending it didn't matter. I went to her house. The gate was open, something she never forgot to close. Inside, her voice carried faintly from the kitchen, low and sharp. I froze before turning the corner. "He's too young, Lena. People already talk." It was the same woman from before. "I know," Lena said, her voice breaking on the last word. "You think I don't know?" I shouldn't have listened, but I couldn't move. Her friend sighed. "You're playing with fire." There was a long pause, then Lena said, quieter, I think the fire already started. Something in my chest tightened, not pride, not guilt, something heavier. The floor creaked. She turned, eyes wide, caught between anger and relief. How long have you been standing there? Long enough, I said. But not long enough to understand. Her friend left without another word, brushing past me like I was a ghost she didn't want to acknowledge. The front door slammed. The silence that followed felt raw, exposed. Lena leaned against the counter, arms crossed like she was holding herself together. You shouldn't have heard that, she said. I think I was supposed to. Don't twist this into something it's not. What is it then? She looked up, eyes shining. It's a mistake that keeps repeating itself. That's not what you said last night. Her mouth opened, closed. She turned away, pressing a hand to her forehead. You don't know me, not really. You think you do because I let you see the parts one don't show anyone else. Then why let me? She hesitated. Then, softly, because you look at me like I'm still someone I used to be. I stepped closer, close enough to see her reflection tremble in the metal kettle beside us. That's not why I'm here. Then why? Because I can't stop thinking about you. The words landed heavy, unfixable. She inhaled sharply, eyes closing, head tilting just slightly as if the confession itself had weight. When she opened them again, something had changed, the control she wore like a second skin cracked. You shouldn't say things like that, she whispered. I already did. Her hands were trembling. She turned to reach for her glass, but her fingers brushed mine instead. The touch was accidental, but neither of us pulled back. Someone saw us, she said finally. Yesterday. At the window. The air thinned. Her next words came like a secret that burned her throat, he's coming tomorrow. My ex. To get his things. That was the twist, the world outside had found its way in. I should have stepped away. Instead, I reached for her hand, firm this time. If he asks, I said, what will you tell him? Lena met my eyes, tired, wanting, cornered. The truth, she said. Even if it ruins everything. And then, she didn't let go. Her ex's car was parked outside when I arrived. The sight made my stomach twist, not with jealousy, but with something harder to name. Through the window, I saw them talking in the hallway. He was taller, louder, moving with that casual ownership people forget to unlearn. Lena's arms were crossed, chin lifted in quiet defiance. Even from outside, I could tell she wasn't really listening. When he finally left, she stood at the doorway for a long time, not moving. The wind caught her hair, the hem of her sweater. She looked like someone remembering how to breathe. I almost walked away. Almost. Instead, I knocked. She didn't look surprised when she opened the door, just tired, relieved, maybe both. You shouldn't be here, she said, same words as always, but softer now. I know. The silence between us was familiar, heavy but safe, like we'd both run out of excuses. Did he see you? She asked. No, she nodded once, then stepped aside. Then come in before I change my mind. The house felt smaller that night. Or maybe it was just us taking up too much space. I stood near the table, she stayed by the window, arms folded, gaze fixed somewhere distant. He wanted to know if I was seeing someone, she said quietly. What did you tell him? The truth. I took a step closer. Which is? She turned then, eyes searching mine, voice low and steady. That I didn't know how to answer. It felt like the whole room tilted. She moved toward me slowly, as if testing whether I'd flinch. I didn't. You make everything harder, she said. Every time I think I can stop, you look at me like that. Like what? Like I still have time. Her hand lifted, stopped midway, then rested lightly on my chest. Just enough pressure to feel the tremor beneath her palm. Neither of us spoke. The air smelled faintly of rain again, the kind that clings to skin. I reached up, fingers brushing the side of her face, tracing a line that wasn't supposed to exist. She closed her eyes, leaning into it for a second, 1 second that felt longer than anything before. "This is wrong," she whispered. "Maybe," I said. "But it doesn't feel like it." She opened her eyes, met mine, and every barrier, the words, the years, the hesitation, fell away in the space between breaths. For a heartbeat, we didn't move. Then she leaned forward, just enough that her forehead touched mine. Her breath trembled when she spoke. "If this happens," she said, "it changes everything. It already has." Her lips were so close I could feel the shape of the next word before she said it, a soft, defeated, "Then don't stop." And I didn't. It wasn't a kiss, not yet, just the moment before one, suspended in truth. The kind where both people finally understand what they've been avoiding wasn't danger, it was honesty. When she finally whispered my name, it didn't sound like a warning anymore. It sounded like an answer. Morning light filtered through her curtains, soft and quiet. The storm from last night had passed completely, leaving a calm that felt almost fragile. Lena was in the kitchen, arms wrapped around herself, watching me watch her. I hadn't moved since sitting down at the edge of the couch, hands resting lightly on my knees, heart still thudding from the night before. "You're staring," she said, but it wasn't sharp. Just observational. "I'm not," I said, even as my eyes followed the way her hair fell across her shoulder, the curve of her neck catching the light. "You are," she said, smiling faintly, shaking her head like she couldn't quite believe it. I stood and moved toward her, careful, slow. Her hands reached for mine almost automatically, fingers weaving between mine like they'd been waiting for it. She didn't speak, didn't need to. "I was scared," she said finally, voice low. "Not of you. Just everything else." "I know," I whispered. "Me too." We stood there for a long moment, foreheads touching, breaths mingling. The space between us felt smaller than it had all night, warm, safe, even with the memory of the risks lingering. "I didn't think I'd let someone like you in," she murmured. "Someone like me?" I teased softly, brushing a thumb over her knuckles. "Young. Reckless. Too many things I can't control," she said, half smiling. "And yet, here you are." "And here you are," I said, leaning closer. Her eyes closed briefly at the contact. We didn't need more than that. No words, no confessions left unsaid. Just the quiet, deliberate act of being near each other, of finally allowing closeness without hesitation. Her hand slid from mine to my chest, resting there, warm and solid. I leaned down slightly, pressed a soft kiss to her forehead, one gentle, grounding motion that said everything we'd been too afraid to say aloud. She shivered faintly, then smiled, resting her cheek against mine. "I guess we're complicated anyway," she whispered. "Already are," I said, and this time, we both laughed softly, the sound of relief, of surrender. We moved to the couch together, sitting side by side, knees touching, hands still entwined. The world outside existed somewhere, but here, in that room, it didn't matter. We fit together in the quiet spaces, in the pauses, in the lingering glances that spoke louder than any words could. Finally, she leaned her head on my shoulder, my arm coming around her naturally. The shelf, the texts, the whispered confessions, the stormy nights, they all felt like threads woven into this moment, delicate and imperfect, but ours. I could feel her pulse against mine, steady now, unafraid. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I had to fix anything, not the shelf, not the silence, not the weight of yesterday. We just sat there, together. And it was enough. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?